throwing a leg over the 2025 Harley-Davidson Fat Bob. Got the kickstand under that floorboard. Keyless start, so we got the power button here on the right, which we can go over the rest of this while we wait. Alright, decent sound. Alright, controls on the right here, the on and off switch. You got hazards, traction control on and off, the blinker and the ride mode here on the right. On the left, they've made a combination of the blinker and the horn. Cruise control, trip toggle, and then your light toggle up here on this little index finger trigger. And those are the controls. Digital and analog dash. We got lots of information, larger dash here than you see on the Street Bob, although it's a similar setup. And in typical Fat Bob fashion, we are low to the ground. This ride height here is about 25.9 inches, so sub 26 inches. But because of how wide it is, and because of this derby cover, I'm hitting my leg when I put my leg straight down, although I can flat foot. So yeah, at 5'6" with a 30-inch inseam, that's where we are. Now, in past years on the Fat Bob, on the Fat Boy, I love the Fat Bob. I'm sad that it's gone. On past years in the Fat Boy, it was very much a bike that you sat in. And since we've changed to this Milwaukee 8 engine, it is more of a bike that you feel like you're sitting on top of, which isn't a bad thing. It's just something to make note of. Obviously, you've got all of this really nice chrome on this bike. If you're into chrome, the Fat Boy is something that you're going to want to take a look at. And for a large bike, for a heavy motorcycle, it holds itself well. It doesn't feel super heavy, and especially when you at address, when you look at this big honking bike with this massive rear tire, you know, this big cowl over the front headlight, which is kind of emblematic of the Fat Boy. It can feel intimidating. And adjust these mirrors, which actually aren't awesome. They're kind of small. Not a whole lot of obstruction, but also not great. Ooh. Yeah, so in the years past, like I said, I've ridden the old Fat Boy Low, the 2013 model, and it just felt more like you were sitting in that bike, and I really like that about this, especially with such a low ride height. But again, I'm not going to dwell on that anymore. Just something to take note of if you were a fan of the old Fat Bob or Fat Boy, and you're a fan of the old Fat Boy, and you were like, oh, that's a bike that maybe I'm going to consider. Just something to take note of if that's something you liked about it before. Oh, that is a nice sound from that exhaust. When you start it up, it's kind of quiet, but once you get going, that is a decent growl from that stock exhaust. So yeah, I get a lot of people who watch my reviews who are like, hey, can you just shut up so I can listen to the bike? And what my usually response to that is, this is not that kind of channel. I talk a lot. So yeah, decent rumble. You talk about engine vibration with the Milwaukee 8. It has a really nice counterbalancing, so it takes away a lot of that classic old Dyna, old Softail Harley rumble with the rubber mounted engines. Yeah, this has still has a little bit of vibration in it to give you that old feel, but it's obviously not overwhelming, and not so much that it's going to shake these mirrors so I can't see anything out of them. But again, it's just, I feel like because of how low profile this motorcycle is and how much it feels like I'm riding on top of it, that these mirrors need like a longer arm. They just feel like they're in a bad place. Anyway, this is a bike review, and so we're going to talk about things that I do and do not like. And the mirrors are one of them. So, let's talk about comfortability. This saddle, although it doesn't feel like the softest saddle, I do like how it feels like it's cupping my rear end. So, when we really get going here and get a little aggressive on the throttle, before we try sport mode, we're going to throw it into rain mode, which you see here indicated here. We're going to throw it into rain mode just so we can get an idea of how much tamer the throttle response is. And with over 100 horsepower and over 120 foot-pounds of torque, you know, this bike can be really aggressive. But we'll get into that. But for now, let's just see how it feels. Ooh, that was pretty decent in that turn. Leaned into it pretty good. yeah, so rain mode's going to help it so that if maybe you're just getting to know the motorcycle, or it actually is raining, you're going to be able to reduce how much horsepower and torque you feel, and the throttle response is going to be less touchy. And yeah, rain mode is nice. It also has cruise control, which we'll try out here on the highway once we get there. Yeah, but the seat is really nice because, as I mentioned, it has this cupping shape, which makes it so it doesn't feel like I'm sliding back. And with the riding position here, with my hands low and my knees up on these front control footboards, I feel like that's necessary to have that cup to keep you in place, because it would be really easy for you to slide back and maybe off. Not off the bike, but off the seat completely, and that's just not a happy place to be. Footboards are really nice. At 5'6" and a 30-inch inseam, like I mentioned before, the riding position is very comfortable, and having these footboards, which didn't seem to inhibit my lean angle, which I'll have here on the screen for you. But shifting is nice. It has a very distinct click. It's neutral was easy to find, and actually, we don't think we did that, but we'll find out if neutral is easy to find. I have a feeling because of the very distinct clicks of the shifting lever, we're going to be fine. Brakes, we're going to get an opportunity to stop. I don't like stopping hard when we're on a group ride, so we will get you an idea of how these brakes feel. And there's actually an adjustable brake lever. This bike has cornering ABS as well as regular ABS, and actually it's a whole mouthful of what happens when you shift down at higher speeds. It's a safety system that Harley is adding to their Softail line, I believe, but definitely with the Fat Boy, that makes it so you don't get that aggressive screech of the tire if you shift down to a lower gear at too high of an RPM. There's a system there in place to make it so that it doesn't jerk the bike and it doesn't screech the tires. Something about the clutch system. All right, here we go. Woo! All right, let's get it in sport mode while we get on the highway. Oh, this Kia Soul, you're killing me. Oh, they're getting out of the way. All right, let's hit this, man. Ooh! Sport mode. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, plenty of power on this bike, and sport mode is really gonna let you get all of that. I mean, yeah, holy cow, that is fun. All right, so as I've mentioned in previous times that I've ridden the Fat Boy, the way that the headlight cowl is shaped, I feel like it deflects wind better than just the typical Softail headlight. And that's no different here with this model. I think that, again, if I was sitting more in the bike, that having that cowl would really do even a better job of deflecting that wind. But as it is, on this day where we've got a little bit of wind and it's a little bit chilly, it's doing a good job, and I feel confident out here on the highway. So let's try this cruise control. We've engaged it here, and it indicates here with the light, and we're just going to set it by pressing down. I think even if you just press up, it's going to set it. Nope. I was wrong. Set. Okay, so we're set at cruise control about 72 miles an hour. And the nice thing about cruise control here on this Harley-Davidson is that you can increase the speed and reduce the speed with the buttons. You don't have to turn it off and then reset how fast or how slow you're going. And it turns off really nicely if you hit the brake, turns off. If you turn it off, obviously it's going to turn off. And I feel like the size of the buttons, the placement of the buttons are all in a really good place to be able to do this very easily. So if you're a person that's cruising on the highway often and you like to just set it and forget it, cruise control works nicely and is really easy to use. So we've got triple toggles here. I like to put mine on the RPM. I don't love that this gauge is down here on the tank, and I have mentioned that in most of my my review videos. Harley-Davidson, I don't know how we're going to get a gauge up here on the handlebars. On a bike like this, it's such a well thought out design as far as the look of it, but having the gauge there, even on my Ruroc helmet, that provides a really wide viewing angle, field of view, both side to side and up and down. I still can't see the tank without looking down, or excuse me, can't see the gauge without looking down. Oh, these guys are getting out in front of me. Oh, that is so nice. And I feel like, oh, I just reached for the heel shifter. Oh yeah, a nice Harley rumble there on the highway. Very nice. Comfortable ride. The suspension here, we've got standard upside down telescopic front forks, and we have the adjustable preload in the rear. I believe you can do rebound dampening as well, but yeah, all of that can be done under the seat. And yeah, this I always enjoyed the Fat Boy, whether it be the old the old Softail Fat Boy or this new Milwaukee 8 Fat Boy. It's just, I feel like it's like cruising at its best. The one thing though that I didn't necessarily like about the old Fat Boy was the wheels. Those big like dish wheels that didn't allow any air to pass through. And I never rode it on a windy day, but I always worried that because there's no air to pass through, that a good gust of wind could really be affected by not having any pass through on those wheels. I'll leave it in the comments if you've ever owned a Fat Boy with those big dish wheels. If that's ever been an issue as far as wind goes, because now they have kind of more aerodynamic design, and there's the holes that you can pass through. So this guy's not taking this turn very wide. Yeah. So naturally, with that fat rear tire, those tight turns, and when you get into it on a canyon or a mountain road, it's a little bit of a chore, especially if you've ridden a lot of highway miles and that tire's gotten even flatter, and it's so fat. It gets a little bit difficult to roll over on it when you're making a turn. I felt it there in that sharp, slow speed turn. But if you, I mean, I've heard people talk about how hard it is to turn it over, and I get it. But I think if you own this motorcycle, this was your bike, you would get used to it. And it's not like, even though it's harder to roll over on it than it would be on a rounder tire, it's just not like, whoo. Okay, floorboard scraped. I got a little too comfortable in that turn. That's fine. But yeah, we'll put this will be a good time to put the lean angles here on this motorcycle. Yeah, because what I was trying to do there was show you that it's not hard to lean this bike over in a turn, and it really isn't. Are you gonna scrape a peg because the lean angles aren't great on the Fat Bob? Probably. Fat Boy. Ooh, sorry. But that's not what the Fat Boy is all about. It's not about carving up the canyons and leaning the bike over. That's really not what cruising is. And so that's not something that I'm just going to summarize this by saying it's not difficult to turn this bike. It's not difficult to turn and get over on that big old rear tire. End of story. So suspension, we did talk about that the front's upside down telescopic forks and the adjustable rear suspension, the single or the monoshock suspension that's adjustable under the seat. Very comfortable ride. The seat actually, as we've been out here for a little while now, the seat is actually very comfortable. I prefer way over the Street Bob that we rode earlier. And the suspension actually is actually tuned really nicely, where it doesn't feel like it's bogging down when we stop hard. And also, just here on this bumpy old California country road, it's taking all these undulations and imperfections and making short work of them. A really nice feeling ride and a comfortable ride, even on some of the just terrible roads in our state, whose roads are kind of always in a constant flux of disrepair. But yeah, I mean, sport mode, even though you get on that throttle and it really surges you forward. If you don't want to get on that throttle and you just want to cruise, if you roll out nice and smooth, it's going to give you that power nice and smooth. And that's kind of what I have loved about Harley-Davidsons, is the power is very linear, but with the added bonus on these new models of having the ride modes, where I feel like when we get going from a stop, if I don't want to just roll on and kind of cruise and stroll forward, I can get on it, and that bike gives it to me, and it's a cool feeling. It's something that's different, something that they've offered on some of the touring models, but I think this is the first time we're seeing ride modes and all these safety and electronic features, which I know a lot of Harley riders are like, oh, I don't need electronics and technology to help me ride. But you know what, guess what? Technology is there and it's helping us be safer, and I'm all here for it. So yeah, you can say what you want, obviously. Oh yeah, man. So what I will say, with 117 cubic inch Milwaukee engine, you know, there's plenty of power, plenty of torque, but the sport mode on the Street Bob felt a little more aggressive, and maybe it's just the riding position about that, or the fact that I felt like I was sliding back in that seat, but the sport mode here feels a little less aggressive, feels a little less intimidating. So even though the power delivery, when you get on that throttle in sport mode, feels a little more aggressive than it does in road mode, which we're going to switch it to here for the rest of the ride, it's not terrible, and it's not overwhelming, and I would say even to a degree that sport mode could be even a little more aggressive, but again, I think being very mindful as Harley-Davidson engineers or tuners look at these bikes, when you're buying a fat boy, you're not thinking about how fast can I go 0 to 60 or you know, popping wheelies and all that stuff. The Fat Bob is here for the look, it's here for the ride, it's here for the chrome, and I think they've executed on that. So let's talk about who this bike is for. I like to do that. It's kind of just one of those things that I like to think about while we do these extended test rides, and I got time to talk about that stuff. Is who's this bike for, and maybe who it's not for. It's not for a new rider. It's just too big, I think. It's very wide, and I think that alone might feel too intimidating for a new rider. Again, usually if you're a new rider, you don't want to spend 20,000 plus where this bike starts at on a motorcycle anyway. But let's say you're a new rider and you're thinking about a new motorcycle and a Harley-Davidson. I think maybe the Fat Boy's a little too much for you, just because of the weight and also because of the lean angle. You know, if you're just cruising and you don't ever see yourself getting any very aggressive in turns, and you live in a really, you know, not curvy place where you live, I don't know what I'm trying to say. If you're not really getting aggressive in turns, as a new rider, still, I don't know that this is a bike for you. This is definitely an upgrade to maybe your second motorcycle, or somebody who's just looking for a comfortable ride. Has a really nice look. You know, it still holds on to that old Fat Boy charm, that old Fat Boy mystique. That's the wrong word, but yeah, I would recommend this bike for Fat Boy fans. The new tank badging is kind of cool. I'm a bigger fan of the old kind of, I think it was like the winged, got a bug in here. Neutral is not easy to find. Funny that the neutral shows up here and not here. That threw me off too. So yeah, if you're a fan of the Fat Boy, the new tank badging here, what I was saying was that the old tank badging I kind of like better. This new tank badging, if I'm being honest, kind of feels very much like another company who has this sort of look to their badging. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I think you know who I'm talking about, and I think if you look at it, you can see what I mean. It's kind of, what's funny about that to me is that people who are fans of the motor company, Harley-Davidson, they very much feel like, guy's right on my side, that is not a good place to be when you're turning. Test rides. But yeah, very much Harley enthusiasts like to talk about how another motorcycle company likes to copy. And this tank graphic to me looks very much like that company. So anyway, that's just an observation that I made immediately when I saw it. I think it looks cool. I don't mind it at all. I think it's sharp, and they executed well on it. And you know, actually it's got kind of a brushed metal look instead of the chrome look. I like it. It just reminds me of something else. Alright, this is the part of the ride where I tell my viewers here, if you got questions about the Fat Boy that I did not answer while I wrote it, make sure you leave those in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and if I can't, I will hunt down that answer for you. Overall, I enjoyed the Fat Boy. This is possibly one of my favorite motorcycles. Now you might say, because I grew up loving Terminator 2. Terminator 2 was one of my favorite movies growing up. It's still one of my favorite movies. That because Arnold was riding the Fat Boy in its very early iteration, kind of made it famous. That I'm biased, and I'll flat out say, yeah, I'm biased because of that. But there's something to be said about this motorcycle. Its wide stance, the look, the feel, the comfortability. I think they've lost a little bit of that original Fat Boy feeling, in that you're sitting more on the bike than in the bike. But overall, if I had 25 grand to spend on a motorcycle, I would consider the Fat Boy. I think just as it is, I know that people buy their Harleys and they want to do all these things to them and make it their own. It's one of those bikes that I don't think needs a whole lot done to it. Maybe if you're hungry for a louder exhaust, that's something that you're gonna change. But top to bottom, the design on this bike is really sharp. It's really smooth, and something that I would recommend. But guys, that's where we will end this video, because we're at the end of the test ride. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Everybody, if you're out there riding, please be safe and be kind to one another. My name is Eric, I'm that one guy, and I am out.